The space station floated quietly in the dark between three star systems. Harmony Point was built for meetings like this one. Its white metal walls had seen many arguments between alien races, but never something this serious. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the long hallway toward the main meeting room. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Behind him, two other humans followed. Lisa Grant carried a data pad with information about each alien race. Commander Ryan Brooks wore his military uniform but kept his hands empty and open. "Remember," Jake said quietly, "we are here to listen first. Let them talk. Let them show us what they really want." Lisa nodded. She had studied each alien race for years. The Kreks loved to fight and thought strength was everything. The Valerians believed in honor above all else. The Zephyrians worked together like a big family, always thinking the same thoughts. The Tellurians cared most about trade and making money. The Ethereals were very old and wise, but they rarely spoke. The meeting room was huge and round. A large table sat in the center with chairs made for different body types. The air smelled different here because each alien race needed different things to breathe comfortably. The Kreks delegation was already there. Ambassador Krex Vor stood, 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 arms. His red eyes looked angry even when he was calm. 2 smaller Krek soldiers stood behind him, their hands always near their weapons. The Valerian group sat across from the Kreks. Their leader, Honor Captain Vex Prima, had blue skin that sparkled like stars. Her people were tall and thin with long white hair. They dressed in silver clothes that showed their rank and achievements. The Valerians kept looking at the Kreks with hate in their eyes. The Zephyrian hive sent 3 representatives, but they were really 1 mind and 3 bodies. They looked like large insects with 6 legs each. Their compound eyes saw everything at once. They made soft clicking sounds when they talked to each other. Only 2 Tellurians came to the meeting. They were short and fat with orange fur covering their round bodies. Their small black eyes always moved looking for the best deal. They brought many electronic devices to calculate profits and losses. The ethereal delegate surprised everyone by coming at all. Ancient Sage Lumkara appeared as a tall figure covered in flowing robes. No one had ever seen an ethereal's face. Some said they were made of pure energy. Others thought they were very old creatures from the first days of space travel. Jake took his seat at the table. The other aliens looked at him with different expressions. Some seemed curious, others looked disappointed. The Kreks appeared angry that only 3 humans had come. "We are here," said the station's computer voice, "to discuss the conflict over mining rights in the Andromeda sector. 5 races claim the same area. War seems likely unless we find a solution." Krex Vor slammed one of his 4 fists on the table. "There is no conflict. The Andromeda sector belongs to whoever is strong enough to take it. The Kreks Empire has the biggest fleet and the best warriors. We will mine those planets." Honor Captain Vex Prima stood up slowly. Her voice was cold and sharp. "Strength without honor is just bullying. The Valerian clans found those systems first. Our scouts died mapping those dangerous space routes. Those worlds belong to us by right of discovery." The 3 Zephyrian bodies spoke together in perfect timing. "The hive needs those minerals to grow. Our calculations show we can use the resources most efficiently. Logic demands we control the sector." The Tellurian traders, Merchant Prime Geld Quinn, smiled with his small mouth. "Friends, why fight? The Tellurian Federation can buy the mining rights from whoever owns them. We will pay good prices and everyone profits." All eyes turned to the ethereal. Ancient Sage Lamkara said nothing for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded like wind through old trees. "The ethereals placed markers on those worlds long ago. We may have prior claim, but we have not decided what to do." Jake listened to everything without speaking. Lisa took notes on her data pad. Ryan watched the body language of each group, seeing who might fight first. Krexvor turned his red eyes toward the humans. "What about you, Captain Morrison? Your people have fought wars across your own planet. Your history books are full of battles and conquests. Surely you understand that the strong take what they need." Jake looked around the table at each delegation. Earth has indeed seen many wars. We know about fighting, but we have learned other things too. Such as? Asked Honor Captain Vex Prima. We have learned that winning a war is often easier than winning the peace that comes after, Jake said calmly. Craig's ambassador laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Peace? There is no peace in the galaxy, human. There is only the time between wars when the weak prepare to lose again. Lisa looked up from her notes. With respect, Ambassador, our studies show that every race here has fought wars for thousands of years. But none of you have ever really won. What do you mean? Asked Merchant Prime Geldquin. You fight, you win or lose, then you fight again later. Lisa explained. The same problems keep coming back. The same enemies return stronger. Victory never lasts. The Zephyrian hive mind clicked rapidly among themselves. The human female speaks truth. Analysis of historical data confirms the pattern. Victory leads to new conflicts. Ancient sage Lamkara raised one robed arm. The young races always think the next war will be the last war. The ethereals have seen this cycle many times. Ryan finally spoke. We are not here to avoid war because we are afraid of it. We are here because we want to understand why you all believe war is the only answer. Krexvor's forearms crossed over his thick chest. Because that is how the universe works. The strong survive and the weak serve or die. This has always been true. Has it worked? Jake asked quietly. The question made everyone stop talking. The room became very quiet except for the soft hum of the air recycling system. I mean, Jake continued, you have been fighting for thousands of years. Are any of your people happier now? Are your problems solved? Do you have what you really need? Honor Captain Vex Prima looked uncomfortable. Honor demands that we fight for what is ours. But what if fighting is not the most honorable choice? Jake asked. What if there was a way to solve this problem that brought honor to everyone? The Tellurians made calculating sounds with their small mouths. Profit margins would certainly be higher without war costs, Merchant Prime Geldquin admitted. The ethereal sage moved slightly in his chair. The humans ask interesting questions. Krexvor stood up to his full height. His red eyes glowed brighter. You speak like philosophers, not warriors. But philosophy does not claim territory. Philosophy does not mine minerals. Philosophy does not feed hungry people or protect them from enemies. Jake nodded. You are right about that. Philosophy alone is not enough. But neither is war alone. Maybe there is a third choice. What third choice? Asked all three Zephyrian bodies at once. Before Jake could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the station. The main screen showed space outside, Harmony Point. Dozens of Krex warships were moving toward Valyrian space. At the same time, Valyrian battlecruisers were forming attack formations. It appears, said the station computer, that military action has begun in the disputed sector. Everyone looked at the screen. The war had started while they were still talking. All their words had been too late. Krexvor smiled with satisfaction. Now you will see how the galaxy really works, humans. Choose your side quickly, or watch from the sidelines while real races decide the future. Jake stood up slowly. We choose differently. What does that mean? Demanded Honor Captain Vex Prima. You will see, Jake said. He pressed a button on his communication device. Lisa, contact Earth. Tell them to begin Protocol 7. The aliens had never heard of Protocol 7. They would learn about it soon enough. Earth looked peaceful from space. The blue and green planet turned slowly in the darkness, showing no signs of the important meeting happening inside the Global Defense Building. Admiral Patricia Wells stood in front of a large screen that showed the galaxy map. Red dots marked where fighting had started between the alien races. The situation is getting worse, she said to the room full of military officers and scientists. Krex and Valerian fleets are shooting at each other. The Zephyrian hive is sending bioships to attack Krex supply lines. Tellurian merchants are building defense walls around their trade routes. Even the ancient ethereals are waking up their old war machines. Dr. Alan Carter pushed his glasses up his nose and looked at his notes. He was Earth's best expert on alien psychology. For 20 years, he had studied how different alien races thought and acted. Admiral, we expected this to happen. Our computer models predicted this war with 87% accuracy. A young officer raised her hand. Dr. Carter, if we knew war was coming, why didn't we try harder to stop it? Dr. Carter smiled sadly. Lieutenant Barnes, we did try. But some things cannot be stopped with words alone. These races have been fighting each other for thousands of years. It is how they solve all their problems. Admiral Wells touched a button and the screen changed. Now it showed Earth's history. Pictures of old wars flashed by. Soldiers in trenches, cities destroyed by bombs, refugees running from their homes, graveyards full of white crosses. Dr. Carter explained to everyone why humans see war differently than our alien neighbors. Dr. Carter walked to the front of the room. Humans have fought many wars on Earth. We almost destroyed ourselves several times. The world wars killed millions of people. The resource conflicts of 2157 left entire continents empty. The Titan colony rebellion 50 years ago showed us what happens when humans fight in space. He clicked a remote control. The screen showed pictures of destroyed cities on Earth's moon colonies, broken space stations, ships floating dead in space. But we learned something that the alien races have not learned yet. We learned that winning a war is not the same as winning peace. After every war, we had to rebuild everything. We had to heal the people who survived. We had to make sure the same war would not happen again. Lieutenant Barnes looked confused. Sir, how is that different from what the aliens do? The aliens fight wars to show who is strongest, Dr. Carter explained. When they win, they take what they want and leave. They do not stay to fix the problems that caused the war in the first place. So the same problems come back later and they fight the same wars again and again. Admiral Wells nodded. Show them the Krex Empire data. The screen changed again. Now it showed the history of Krex wars. The Krex have fought 43 major wars in the last 1,000 years, Dr. Carter said. They won 31 of those wars, but they are still fighting the same enemies for the same reasons. Victory did not solve their problems. What about the Valerians? Asked another officer. Same pattern. The Valerians have won many battles because they are brave and honorable fighters. But honor does not feed hungry people or fix broken planets, so they keep fighting wars to protect what they think belongs to them. The screen showed Zephyrian bioships attacking enemy fleets. The Zephyrian hive believes logic can solve everything. They calculate the best way to win battles. But they do not calculate how to win hearts and minds. Their enemies always come back stronger. Dr. Carter looked around the room. Even the Tellurians, who love money more than fighting, end up in wars, because they think military force can protect their trade routes, and the Ethereals, who are older and wiser than all the other races, still use ancient weapons when they feel threatened. Admiral Wells stepped forward. Now tell them what makes humans different. Dr. Carter smiled. Humans learned something important from our worst wars. We learned that the real enemy is not the people shooting at you. The real enemy is the reason they started shooting in the first place. The room was very quiet. Everyone was listening, carefully. When humans fight a war now, we do not just plan how to win battles. We plan what happens after the war ends. We study our enemies to understand why they are fighting. We prepare to solve the problems that caused the war. We get ready to help rebuild everything that gets destroyed. Lieutenant Barnes raised her hand again. Sir, that sounds like a lot of work. Why not just win the war and let the losers fix their own problems? Dr. Carter walked over to her. Lieutenant, what happens when you have a broken arm? I go to a doctor to fix it. What if the doctor only stopped the bleeding but did not set the bone properly? Lieutenant Barnes thought for a moment. The arm would heal wrong. It would hurt forever and never work right. Exactly. If you do not fix a problem completely, it comes back worse than before. The same thing happens with wars. If you do not fix the reasons people fight, they will fight again. Admiral Wells touched her communication device. Bring in Dr. Sophie Chen. A few minutes later, a woman in a white coat entered the room. She carried a thick folder full of papers and data chips. Dr. Chen runs our Galactic Recovery Project. Admiral Wells explained. She has been preparing for this war for 3 years. Dr. Chen opened her folder. While the alien races were arguing about who should control the Andromeda sector, we were studying the real problem. The minerals they want to mine are used to make faster space engines. Every race needs these minerals, but there is not enough for everyone. She handed out papers to the officers. We found 7 other star systems that have the same minerals. 3 of them are closer to alien homeworlds than Andromeda. 2 of them have more minerals than Andromeda. But none of the alien races know about these systems because they were too busy preparing for war. Why didn't we tell them? Asked Lieutenant Barnes. We tried, Dr. Chen said. But they did not listen. The Kreks said we were lying to make them weak. The Valerians said accepting help would be dishonorable. The Zephyrians calculated that we must want something in return. The Tellurians thought we were trying to cheat them. The Ethereals said nothing at all. Admiral Wells looked at the galaxy map again. More red dots were appearing as the fighting spread to new star systems. So now, we wait, she said. We let them fight until they are tired and broken. Then we show them a better way. Dr. Carter nodded. This is what humans learned from our own wars. Sometimes people have to see how bad war really is before they will consider peace. But Admiral, said another officer, what if they destroy each other completely? What if there is nothing left to save? Admiral Wells smiled. That is why we sent Captain Morrison and his team to Harmony Point. Protocol 7 is not just about waiting. It is about being ready to act when the time is right. The communication system beeped. Admiral Wells answered it. Captain Morrison's voice came through the speakers from far away in space. Admiral, the fighting has started. Kreks and Valerian fleets are shooting at each other near the Proxima station. Zephyrian bioships just attacked a Krek supply convoy. I estimate we have 72 hours before this becomes a full galactic war. Understood, Captain? Begin Phase 1 of Protocol 7. Yes, Admiral. What should I tell the aliens when they ask what we are doing? Admiral Wells looked around the room at all the officers and scientists. These people had spent years preparing for this moment. They had studied every alien race. They had planned for every possible outcome. They were ready to do something that had never been done before in galactic history. Tell them the truth, Captain. Tell them that humans have learned there is something more important than winning wars. Tell them we have learned how to win peace. The communication ended. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of computers processing data about the growing war. Dr. Carter walked to the window and looked out at Earth. In a few days, those alien races will understand why humans really avoid war. Not because we are afraid of fighting, but because we have become very good at something much harder than fighting. What is that? Asked Lieutenant Barnes. Dr. Carter smiled. We have become very good at fixing things that other people break, including the people who break them. Outside the window, Earth continued turning peacefully in space. But inside the Global Defense Building, hundreds of people were working to save a galaxy that did not yet know it needed saving. The mining station New Hope had been a peaceful place just hours before. Valerian workers had been digging for minerals deep under the ground. Their families lived in the colony nearby. Children played in the artificial gardens while their parents worked. Now, New Hope was a burning wreck floating in space. The Kreks attack had come without warning. 15 Kreks destroyers had surrounded the station and demanded surrender. When the Valerians refused, the Kreks opened fire. Honor Captain Vex Prima had been right about one thing. Her people were brave fighters. The Valerian guards fought back with everything they had. But they were miners and colonists, not soldiers. The Kreks were professional warriors with bigger guns and stronger ships. The battle lasted only 2 hours. When it was over, the mining station was breaking apart. Pieces of metal and debris floated everywhere. Emergency signals flashed from life pods scattered across space. Many people were trapped inside the damaged station, waiting for help that might never come. Kreks Commander Thakvel stood on the bridge of his flagship. His red eyes glowed with satisfaction as he watched the destroyed station on his main screen. His 4 arms were crossed over his chest in the traditional Kreks victory pose. Send a message to all Valerian forces, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them this is what happens when they challenge the Krex Empire. Tell them to surrender, now or watch more of their people die. The young Krex officer at the communications station looked worried. Commander, there are still life signs coming from the wreckage. Many survivors are calling for help. Thak Vel turned his massive head toward the officer. They chose to fight. Now they live with the results. Or die with them. We are warriors, not rescue workers. But even as Thak Vel spoke, something strange appeared on the sensor screens. A large ship was approaching fast from the direction of human space. It was white and red with medical symbols painted on its hull. Commander, said the sensor officer, it is a human hospital ship. The vessel is called Mercy. Thak Vel laughed, the deep rumbling sound that Krex made when they were amused. Humans, always trying to fix things that cannot be fixed. Signal them to turn around. This is a military zone. The human ship did not turn around. Instead, it moved, directly toward the wreckage of New Hope Station. Small rescue shuttles launched from the hospital ship and began searching for survivors. Captain Nicole Hayes stood on the bridge of the Mercy. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm blue eyes. She had been a military doctor for 20 years before taking command of the hospital ship. She had seen many terrible things, but the destruction in front of her still made her feel sick. Medical teams to the shuttles, she announced over the ship's communication system. Standard rescue protocol. Save everyone you can find, no matter which species they are. Her first officer, Commander Pete Jackson, looked at the Krex warships surrounding them. Captain, they are signaling us to leave. Should we respond? Nicole shook her head. We respond by doing our job. Launch all medical shuttles. Set up emergency treatment areas in cargo bays 2 through 5. Tell the kitchen staff to prepare food for refugees. The Krex were not the only ones watching the human rescue operation. Throughout the star system, other alien fleets were also fighting battles. But they all stopped to look when human ships began appearing in the war zone. Commander Danny Walsh led a squadron of 12 human vessels toward a battle between Zephyrian bioships and Krex cruisers. His ships were not warships. They were rescue vessels, supply ships, and mobile repair stations. Each one carried medical equipment and emergency supplies. This is Commander Walsh of the Terran Rescue Fleet. He broadcast on all communication frequencies. Any ship in distress, regardless of species or allegiance, signal for assistance. Human emergency protocols are now in effect. The fighting aliens could not understand what they were seeing. In the middle of a war, humans were offering to help everyone equally. It made no sense to any of them. Aboard a damaged Zephyrian bioship, Elder Zep-9 was dying. The hive-mind creature had been hurt when Krex weapons tore through the living hull of its ship. Green blood leaked from wounds across its insect-like body. The other Zephyrians on the ship were also wounded and could not help. A human rescue shuttle docked with the bioship. 2 human medics in white suits entered the damaged vessel. They did not ask questions about the war or demand information about Zephyrian military secrets. They simply began treating the wounded creatures. Hold still, said Dr. Mary Foster as she worked on Elder Zep-9's wounds. This medicine will stop the bleeding. You are going to be okay. Elder Zep-9 had never been treated by an alien before. The hive mind was confused by human behavior. Why do you help us? We are your enemies in this war. Dr. Foster looked up from her medical work. Are you? I thought you were just hurt people who needed help. The simple answer confused Elder Zep-9 even more. In Zephyrian culture, everything was analyzed and calculated. Every action had a logical reason. But humans seemed to help others without expecting anything in return. Similar scenes were happening throughout the war zone. Human medical teams worked inside damaged Krex ships, treating wounded warriors who had been shooting at other aliens just hours before. Human engineers repaired Tellurian merchant vessels that had been caught in the fighting. Human food supplies were distributed to Valyrian refugees who had lost their homes. The alien military commanders did not know how to react. This had never happened in any previous war. Krex Commander Thak Vel contacted Admiral Wells on Earth. His red eyes glowed, with anger on the communication screen. Admiral, what are your ships doing in our war zone? This conflict does not concern humans. Admiral Wells sat calmly in her office on Earth. Behind her, the wall screen showed the locations of human rescue operations throughout the galaxy. Our ships are saving lives, Commander. That always concerns humans. But whose side are you on? Thakvel demanded. In war, everyone must choose allies and enemies. You cannot help everyone. We can try, Admiral Wells replied. That is what humans do. The Krex commander was frustrated. This makes no military sense. You gain no advantage by helping your enemies. You waste resources that could be used for weapons. Your behavior is illogical. Admiral Wells smiled. Commander, has your current strategy been working well for the Krex Empire? Thakvel paused. What do you mean? You have been fighting wars for 1,000 years. You have won many battles. But are your people happier now than they were 1,000 years ago? Do you have fewer enemies? Are your problems solved? The question made Thakvel uncomfortable. He ended the communication without answering. On Harmony Point Station, Captain Jake Morrison received reports from human ships throughout the war zone. The alien delegates were still there, watching the war spread across multiple star systems. They all seemed confused by what humans were doing. Captain Morrison, said Honor Captain Vex Prima, your people are risking their lives to save our wounded. But we are at war with the Krex. Why do you also help them? Jake looked at the Valerian leader. Because they are hurt, and we can help them. It is that simple. Ancient sage Lumkara spoke for the second time in many years. His voice was like wind through old trees. The humans do something the ethereals have not seen before. They help without choosing sides. Merchant Prime Geldquin was calculating numbers on his electronic device. But there is no profit in this behavior. Humans spend money and resources with no return on investment. It makes no economic sense. Does it have to make sense to you? Jake asked quietly. The three Zephyrian representatives clicked rapidly among themselves. The hive mind cannot understand human logic. Why do humans help creatures who might shoot at them tomorrow? Jake stood up and walked to the large window that looked out into space. In the distance, he could see the lights from human rescue ships, working near the destroyed mining station. Maybe, he said, we help them so they will not want to shoot at us tomorrow. The alien delegates looked at each other with confusion. They had never considered that possibility before. Outside the window, human ships continued their rescue work. They pulled survivors from burning wrecks. They treated wounded aliens from all species. They gave food to hungry refugees and comfort to frightened children. The war was spreading, but something else was spreading too. For the first time in galactic history, someone was fighting the war not with weapons, but with kindness. The aliens did not understand it yet, but they were starting to notice that the humans were doing something completely different, something that might actually work. 3 weeks had passed since the war began. The fighting had spread to 15 star systems. Thousands of ships had been destroyed. Millions of aliens had died. The galaxy had never seen a war this big or this terrible. But something strange was happening. The alien soldiers and civilians who had been rescued by humans were returning to their fleets with unusual stories. These stories were starting to change how the different races thought about the war. Elder Zep-9 had been completely healed by human doctors after nearly dying in the damaged bioship. Now it stood before the Zephyrian Hive Council, trying to explain what had happened during its treatment. The humans asked for nothing, Elder Zep-9 reported to the collective mind. They did not demand military information. They did not request payment. They did not try to make us change sides in the war. They simply healed our wounds and released us. The council found this behavior impossible to understand. What was their strategic purpose? Asked the collective voice of 10,000 Zephyrian minds. We asked them this question, Elder Zep-9 replied. The human doctor said their purpose was to help because they could help. No other reason was given. The hive mind spent hours trying to analyze this information. In Zephyrian culture, every action had to serve the good of the collective. Every decision was calculated for maximum efficiency. But human behavior followed no logical pattern that they could understand. Perhaps, suggested Elder Zep-9, humans operate on a logic system we have not yet discovered. On the Krex flagship, Commander Thakvel was having his own problems understanding human behavior. 57 Krex warriors had been rescued by human medical teams during the past 3 weeks. Every one of them had returned with the same impossible story. The humans treated us better than our own medical officers, reported Battle Captain Kextor. His left arm had been reattached by human surgeons after being nearly destroyed in battle. They gave us pain medicine during surgery. They provided entertainment during recovery. They asked about our families and seemed to care about our answers. Thakvel found this report disturbing. Did they try to make you betray Krex military secrets? No, Commander, they never asked about our weapons or our battle plans. One human doctor spent an hour listening to me talk about my son who is training to be a warrior. She showed me pictures of her own children. Why would they care about Krex families? Thakvel demanded. Battle Captain Kextor looked confused. I do not know, Commander, but it felt good to talk to someone who listened. Similar conversations were happening throughout the Valerian fleet. Honor Captain Vex Prima had rescued 32 of her people from various battles. All of them told the same story about human kindness and efficiency. They treated our wounded with more skill than our own healers, reported Scout Leader Tav Yunus. But more than that, they treated us with respect. They did not see us as defeated enemies. They saw us as people who needed help. Vex Prima paced back and forth in her command center. But why? What do they gain from this behavior? Perhaps, suggested her advisor, Honor Guard Meldara, they gain something we do not understand, something more valuable than military advantage. On Earth, Dr. Alan Carter was studying reports from human rescue teams throughout the war zone. The information confirmed what he had predicted about alien psychology. Admiral, he said to Patricia Wells during their daily briefing, the rescued aliens are starting to question their own reasons for fighting. This is exactly what we hoped would happen. Admiral Wells looked at the data on her screen. Explain it to me in simple terms, Doctor. Dr. Carter pulled up a chart showing psychological profiles of different alien races. Every alien culture we have studied believes that strength comes from hurting enemies. They think showing kindness is weakness. But when humans show kindness to them, it confuses their basic beliefs about how the universe works. And that confusion makes them think differently? Exactly. For the first time in their lives, these aliens are seeing an alternative to violence. They are starting to wonder if there might be a better way to solve problems. Admiral Wells nodded. How long before this starts affecting their military operations? We are already seeing signs. Krex attacks are becoming less aggressive. Valerian honor guards are asking more questions before following orders. Zephyrian bioships are avoiding human vessels even when humans are helping their enemies. The aliens do not want to hurt the people who have been kind to them. On Harmony Point Station, ancient sage Lumkara had been watching human rescue operations for 3 weeks. The ethereal had lived for thousands of years and had seen 12 major galactic wars, but he had never seen anything like what humans were doing. Captain Jake Morrison found the ancient being standing alone in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars where distant battles were still being fought. Ancient sage, Jake said quietly, you have been very thoughtful lately. What are you thinking about? The tall figure in flowing robes turned slightly toward Jake. I am thinking about patterns, Captain Morrison. In all my years, I have observed the same patterns repeating. Races fight, some win, some lose. Time passes. They fight again for the same reasons. Jake stood beside the ancient being and also looked out at the stars. And now? Now I see a new pattern beginning. Your people are not trying to win this war. You are trying to end the reason for war itself. Jake was quiet for a moment. Is that possible? Ancient sage Lumkara was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of thousands of years. The ethereals have believed for many centuries that war is a natural law of the universe, that intelligent races must fight each other to survive and grow strong. And now? Now I begin to wonder if we have been wrong. Perhaps war is not a natural law. Perhaps it is simply a habit that races have never learned to break. Their conversation was interrupted by Merchant Prime Geld Quinn, who rushed into the observation lounge with his electronic calculating device beeping rapidly. "Captain Morrison," the Tellurian called out. "We have been analyzing the economic data from this war. The numbers are very strange." Jake turned to face the short, round alien. "What kind of numbers?" "War costs," Geldquin explained, his small, black eyes wide with surprise. "In 3 weeks of fighting, the 5 warring races have spent more resources than they would earn from mining the Andromeda sector for 50 years. This war makes no economic sense at all." Ancient Sage Lumkara moved closer to hear the conversation. "Continue your analysis, Merchant Prime." Geldquin looked at his device again. "But that is not the strangest part. The humans have spent almost as much on rescue operations as all the other races have spent on weapons. Yet humans are not fighting at all. Why do humans spend so much money to help people who are not their allies?" Jake smiled. "Because helping people is never a waste of money." "But there is no profit," Geldquin protested. "Are you sure about that?" Jake asked. Before Geldquin could answer, the communication system announced an incoming message. The voice belonged to Honor Captain Vex Prima, broadcasting from her flagship. "Attention all fleets. This is Honor Captain Vex Prima of the Valerian clans. I am calling for a temporary ceasefire to discuss new information about this conflict." Within minutes, similar messages came from the other alien commanders. Commander Thakvel of the Krex Empire wanted to meet. The Zephyrian Hive Council requested negotiations. Even the Ethereal Conclave agreed to send representatives. Jake pressed his communication button. "This is Captain Morrison. Harmony Point Station is ready to host another diplomatic meeting. All races are welcome." As the alien fleets began moving toward the neutral station, Ancient Sage Lumkara spoke quietly to Jake. "Something has changed in the past 3 weeks. The commanders sound different, less angry, more uncertain." Jake nodded. "They are starting to question things they have never questioned before." "What things?" "They are starting to wonder why they are fighting. And more importantly, they are starting to wonder if fighting is really the best way to get what they want." Merchant Prime. Geldquin was still calculating numbers on his device. "Captain Morrison, if this pattern continues, the war will become too expensive for anyone to continue fighting. They will be forced to find another solution." "That," said Jake, "is exactly what we are hoping for." Ancient Sage Lumkara turned away from the window to look directly at Jake. For the first time in their conversations, the ancient being seemed curious rather than wise. "Captain Morrison, your people have done something that should be impossible. You have fought a war without fighting. You have gained advantage without conquest. You have made enemies start to think like friends. How is this possible?" Jake looked out at the space where human rescue ships were still working, still saving lives, still helping anyone who needed help regardless of which side they fought for. "Maybe," he said quietly, "we learned that the best way to win a war is to convince everyone that they do not need to fight it." The ancient ethereal was silent for a very long time. Finally, he spoke one word that carried more meaning than 1,000 speeches. "Interesting." Outside the station, alien fleets that had been shooting at each other for 3 weeks were now moving toward peace talks. They did not know it yet, but the war was already over. They just had not realized it yet. The meeting room on Harmony Point Station looked very different from 3 weeks ago. The same alien delegates sat at the same table, but everything had changed. The anger was gone. The threats had stopped. Instead, there was confusion and many questions that no one could answer. Captain Jake Morrison entered the room, followed by Admiral Patricia Wells, who had traveled from Earth for this final meeting. Behind them came Dr. Sophie Chen, carrying her thick folder of plans and data. The aliens watched the humans with new eyes, seeing them as something other than weak peace lovers. Krex Commander Thak Vel was the first to speak. His 4 arms were not crossed in victory pose anymore. Instead, he leaned forward with his red eyes focused on Jake. "Captain Morrison, we need to understand what you have done to us." Jake sat down calmly. "We have not done anything to you, Commander. We have done things for you. That is what confuses us, said Honor Captain Vex Prima. Her blue skin seemed less bright than before, as if the war had drained some of her inner light. Your people have saved hundreds of our warriors. You have asked for nothing in return. This behavior makes no sense to any of us. The three Zephyrian bodies spoke together. The hive mind has calculated all possible reasons for human behavior. Every calculation leads to the same impossible conclusion. Which is, asked Admiral Wells, that humans help others simply because they can help others. No other reason exists. This conclusion breaks all our understanding of how intelligent species behave. Ancient sage Lum Kara raised one robed arm. Perhaps our understanding has been wrong. Merchant Prime Geldquin looked up from his calculating device. The economic numbers support this theory. Human rescue operations have cost more than the value of 10 mining colonies. Yet humans have gained no territory, no resources, and no military advantage. By all logical measures, humans have lost this war completely. Admiral Wells smiled. Have we? What do you mean? Asked Thakvel. Dr. Sophie Chen opened her folder and spread papers across the table. While you were fighting each other, we were solving the real problem. The problem that started this war in the first place. She placed a star map in the center of the table. 7 solar systems were marked with bright yellow circles. You were fighting over the Andromeda sector because you all need rare minerals for your space engines, but we found 7 other systems that have the same minerals. 3 of them are closer to your home worlds than Andromeda. 2 of them have twice as many minerals as Andromeda. The aliens stared at the map in shock. Why did you not tell us this before? Demanded Vex Prima. We tried, Jake said quietly. 3 months ago, we sent this information to all your governments. The Krek said we were lying. The Valerians said accepting help would be dishonorable. The Zephyrians calculated that we must want something bad in return. The Tellurians thought we were trying to trick them. The Ethereals said nothing. Dr. Chen pointed to different systems on the map. System G47 has minerals that are perfect for Krek's heavy engines. System M23 contains exactly what Valerian ships need. System Q91 has materials that work best with Zephyrian biotechnology. But how do we know this is real? Asked Geldquin suspiciously. Admiral Wells pressed a button on her communication device. Bring them in. The doors opened, and 5 humans entered the room. Each one wore a different colored uniform and carried survey equipment. These are our mining engineers, Admiral Wells explained. They have spent 2 years secretly surveying these systems. They can answer any technical questions you have. The lead engineer, Dr. Ben Parker, stepped forward. We have complete geological reports for all 7 systems. We also have preliminary extraction plans that show how each race can mine efficiently without interfering with the others. Ancient Sage Lamkara leaned forward. How long have humans been planning this? 5 years, Admiral Wells answered. We knew this war was coming. Our computer models predicted it with very high accuracy, so we prepared. You prepared for war by planning for peace? Asked Vex Prima. We prepared for war by trying to make war unnecessary, Jake corrected. Thakvel stood up to his full height. But you could have taken these systems for yourselves. Humans could have claimed all the minerals and become the strongest race in the galaxy. Why did you not do this? Admiral Wells looked around the table at each alien delegate. Because we learned something important from our own history. Taking things by force creates enemies. Sharing resources creates friends. We would rather have friends. Dr. Chen pulled out another set of papers. We also prepared detailed reconstruction plans for all the damage caused by this war. We have ships ready to rebuild the destroyed mining station. We have medical supplies for treating wounded soldiers. We have food for refugees who lost their homes. And we have something else, added Dr. Sophie Chen with a small smile. We have new technology that makes mining much easier and safer. We are willing to share this technology with all races equally. Merchant Prime Geldquin's calculating device started beeping rapidly. If this is true, the profit potential is enormous, much larger than fighting over one system. It is true, Dr. Parker confirmed. Our new extraction methods can gather minerals 50% faster than current technology, and they do not damage the planets where the minerals are found. The Zephyrian hive mind clicked rapidly among their three bodies. Why do humans offer to share advanced technology? This would give other races the ability to become as powerful as humans. Admiral Wells nodded. That is exactly what we want. You want other races to become as powerful as you? Asked ancient sage Lumkara with surprise. We want other races to become powerful enough that they do not need to fight wars to get what they need, Jake explained. Strong, successful races make better neighbors than weak, desperate ones. Thakvel sat down heavily in his chair. This strategy makes no military sense. You make your enemies stronger instead of weaker. Are you our enemy? Jake asked quietly. The question made Thakvel pause. We have always assumed that all races are potential enemies. Why? Because... Thakvel struggled to find words. Because that is how the galaxy works. The strong take from the weak. Everyone fights everyone else for resources and territory. This has always been true. Has it worked well for the Krex Empire? Admiral Wells asked. Thakvel was quiet for a long moment. We have fought 43 wars in the last 1,000 years. We have won most of them. But we still fight the same enemies for the same reasons. Nothing ever really gets better. What if, Jake suggested, there was a different way? Honor Captain Vex Prima spoke up. You mean a way where races help each other instead of fighting each other? Why not? Asked Dr. Chen. Humans learned that cooperation works better than competition. When people work together, everyone gets more of what they need. Ancient sage Lumkara was quiet for several minutes. When he finally spoke, his ancient voice carried new understanding. The ethereals have watched this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have seen the same patterns repeat, over and over. Races fight. Winners take from losers. Time passes. The same wars happen again. We thought this was the natural order of the universe. He paused and looked directly at Jake. But humans have shown us something we never considered. You have shown us that the natural order can be changed. Merchant Prime Geldquin was still calculating numbers. If we accept the human proposal, all races benefit. The total profit is larger than any single race could achieve alone, and the costs of war are eliminated completely. So what happens now? Asked Vex Prima. Admiral Wells stood up. Now you choose. You can go back to fighting the same wars your ancestors fought, or you can try something new. What do humans gain from this arrangement? Asked the Zephyrian hive mind. Jake smiled. We gain a galaxy where our children can grow up without worrying about wars. We gain neighbors who trust us instead of fear us. We gain the satisfaction of solving a problem that has caused suffering for thousands of years. Thakvel looked confused. But what about glory? What about proving your strength? What about honor? Commander, Jake said gently, what is more glorious than ending a war without anyone else dying? What shows more strength than helping your enemies become your friends? What brings more honor than solving problems instead of creating them? The room was very quiet. Outside the windows, human rescue ships were still working, still saving lives, still helping anyone who needed help. Ancient, Sage Lumkara was the first to speak. The ethereal conclave accepts the human proposal. One by one, the other delegates agreed. The Tellurians saw the economic benefits. The Zephyrians calculated that cooperation was more efficient than conflict. The Valerians decided that helping others was the most honorable path. Even the Krex admitted that endless war had not brought them happiness. 3 weeks later, the first joint mining operation began in System G47. Krex engineers worked alongside Valerian technicians and Zephyrian biospecialists. Tellurian merchants handled the trade arrangements while ethereal advisors provided wisdom from their long experience. And throughout the galaxy, human rescue ships continued their work. But now, they were not rescuing war victims. They were helping build something new, something that had never existed before in galactic history, peace that actually lasted.